It's 10 o'clock a.m. here in Seoul on Monday, March 1st. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. Today, Korea celebrates the anniversary of the March 1st independence movement, a national holiday. 102 years ago, in 1919, a movement began in Seoul to restore Korea's independence and throw off imperial rule by Japan. And we're now starting our live coverage of an event in the Korean capital to honor that movement. From where it started in Seoul, the March 1st movement spread across the country and was supported by patriots internationally as well. Many of those independence fighters sacrificed their lives. This morning's event will feature an address by President Moon Jae-in, as well as a moment of silence for those martyrs, musical performances, and more. The descendants of Korean independence fighters will be appearing as well. In terms of music, we can look forward to the national anthem, as well as a cello performance, a choral performance, and a little pop music too. It looks like on site, President Moon Jae-in is arriving now. Let's go over and listen into the events this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Chang Ye-won, the MC for the 102nd anniversary of March 1st movement, Proclaim It to the World. And I am Lee Jae-won. We will be having spring very much soon, and this is something that we are also remembered at all times, and this is a poem by the poet Lee Sang-hwa, and this is Mr. Lee Jae-hwa, today's co-host, standing next to me, and he's the grandson of Mr. Lee Sang-woo, and it must be very meaningful for you to stand here. Absolutely, despite being nervous, I am honored to take part in this ever more meaningful ceremony. I'm sure your ancestors will be smiling as they look down at today's events. Moreover, today's venue, Tapgol Park, has a significance as the birthplace of the March 1st movement, where thousands of citizens and students gathered on the March 1st of 1919. Following the Declaration of Independence read out at the Palgakdong Pavilion, the powerful voices of Koreans cheering manse spread endlessly throughout the Korean peninsula, enabling the country's will to diffuse to the whole world. We convey the injustice of escaping national power, and we announce the existence of the Republic of Korea. Here at this very site, the lives of the independent spirit of Koreans, there lives the independent spirit of Koreans with noble sacrifice of our ancestors. And here at the very venue where we began the manse shoutouts, let us now begin the 102nd anniversary of March 1st movement, Proclaim It to the World. First, a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Please rise from your seats.
국기에 대한 경례.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge in front of the Taegukgi allegiance to the Republic of Korea for the eternal glory of the country, liberty, and justice. At ease, we will now we also heard from the Ryu Hyun-jin, who is a famous baseball player from Korea. And next, we also will have the national anthem being played, and we have about 170 Korean sports players who are active around the world.
이어서
And next, we will now pay a silent tribute to the patriotic martyrs and the fallen heroes. Moment of silence.
바로 모두
At
자리에
ease,
앉아주시기
please now
바랍니다.
take your seats.
다음은 독립선언서
Next, a reading of the Declaration of Independence. 102 years ago today, there were independence fighters from abroad who shared the vision of our independence despite differences in language and appearance. Remembering their noble sacrifice and dedication, the descendants of the international independence activists residing across the world will read aloud the March 1st Independence Declaration with their very own languages. In English, it will be read out by Miss Jennifer Taylor, the granddaughter of the late Albert Taylor, who let the world know of the March 1st movement, as well as the Teamli genocide, fighting against the oppression of the Japanese colonial rule. And in Japanese, it will be read out by Mr. Susumu Oishi, the grandson of the late Tatsuji Fusei, who was the first Japanese to be awarded with the Order of Merit for National Foundation. And in Chinese, it will be read aloud by Mr. Tu Ning-woo, who is the grandson of the late Zhu Jinhui, and who also called herself as the daughter of Joseon. And also in Russian, it will be read out by Miss Yulia Piskulova, the granddaughter of the late Lee Wi-jung, who dispatched as the envoy to The Hague to send Korean Emperor Gojong's handwritten letter to the Russian Empire. And also Miss Kim Son-young, medical sign language translator, will provide sign language translation, while in Korean it will be led out by singer Chun So-mi and Mr. Kim Won-woo.
우리는 오늘 조선이 독립한 나라이며
We hereby declare that Korea is an independent state and that Koreans are a self-governing people.
우리는 이를
We proclaim this fact to all nations
인류가
to reaffirm
모두
the great
평등하다는
truth that all humans are equal,
우리 후손이
so that our descendants
스스로 살아갈
may forever
정당한 권리를
enjoy their rights to live
영원히 누리게
as an
할
autonomous
것이다.
people.
이 선언은
This declaration of ours is propelled by the strength of our 5,000 years of history, and as well as the shared will of 20 million Koreans. It is made so that our nation may thrive and be in the step with the larger trend of global evolution that is being shaped by the conscience of humanity. This is the will of heaven and the spirit of our time, and it springs from the rights of all humans that all humans deserve. And nothing in the world shall stand in the way of our own independence.
For the first time in several thousand years of history, we have suffered the agony of oppression by other people for a decade, falling a victim to relics of a bygone era in the form of aggression and authoritarianism. The pain of being deprived of the right to lead our own lives is unfathomable, as is the sorrow of seeing every opportunity to foster our spirit wrenched from us. How deep are the wounds to our national dignity, and how many chances have we lost to contribute to the culture of the world through our new technology and creativity? Alas, to overcome our long-standing resentment, to break free from present hardships, to forestall threats to come, to restore our stifled conscience and the nation's justice, to allow all to develop their own characters, and to hand down to our poor children complete happiness instead of the legacy of shame. The most urgent task is to firmly establish the independence of our nation. Today, our 20 million people have steeled themselves in their resolve. The conscience of mankind and of our time fortifies us with the army of justice and the armaments of humanity. Therefore, we can defeat the mightiest of foe if we take a stand and fight. And we can accomplish any purpose if we take the time to effect our will.
私たちは
We do not accuse Japan of betrayal for not keeping its promises in the aftermath of the Treaty of 1976. We shall not condemn the Japanese for their lack of respect because its scholars and politicians belittled our heritage as that of a colony, dismissed our culture as barbaric, and disrespected our long-established society and our good nature.
続いた社会と民族の素晴らしい新生を無視したからといって日本が義理を欠いたと責めるつもりはない。
And we are too focused on upbraiding ourselves to point the finger at others. We are too occupied with righting wrongs of the present and not the past. The task at hand is to build ourselves up, not to tear others down. We are compelled by our conscience to create our destiny anew, not by envy to drive out others, to indulge a long-standing resentment or a moment's whim. We simply wish to set right this unjustified reality in which we were sacrificed for the ambition of Japanese politicians for their outdated ideas and outdated forces, and to restore it to a natural and rational state. Consider the consequences of our state's coerced annexation with Japan, which our people never desired. Japan is fomenting irreconcilable resentment between the two nations, with desperate interests through oppression, discrimination, injustice, and false statistics. It is not evident that the shortest way to mutual happiness and lack of a tragedy is to boldly right the past wrongs and build upon earnest understanding in order to create a new world of goodwill. Peace in the East cannot be brought about by coercively suppressing the deep-rooted frustration and resentment of 20 million Koreans. It will only breed even greater fear and hatred of 400 million Chinese toward Japan. If this were the case, this will eventually lead to a tragic end of the Eastern world. The independence of the Korean nation will make it possible for its people to flourish as they should and allow Japan to renounce its wrong-headed path and take responsibility for its role in the East. It will free China from the anxiety and fear that it may lose its land to Japan and secure a footing for peace in the region, which plays an essential role in world peace and the happiness of all humankind. A new world is opening up before our eyes. The age of oppression by force is giving way to an era where principles reign. Our humane spirit, owned over thousands of years, now signals the dawn of a new civilization in the history of humankind. A new spring is evolving our world, our whole world, and breathing new life into everything under the sun. The times of stifled breath is freezing. Now, as the way of the world is returning to life, we are at one with the spirit of the age and have no reason to balk or waver. We will defend our innate rights to liberty and bask in the joy of the bounty of life. We will give free rein in our naturally abundant creativity to let our great brilliant culture blossom. That is why we are taking a stand. Our conscience and truth are with us. Men, women, young and old will all burst out from this dark, and we shall enjoy a new happy life along with all creation. The souls of our forebears from thousands of years ago live in us and give us strength. While the momentum of the world protects us from within, our beginning is our success. We are simply marching forward. Our three pledges. 1. Our Declaration of Independence today represents the wish of our people to safeguard and advance justice and human principles in their lives. Therefore, we shall only spread the spirit of freedom far and wide and avoid from being exclusive of others. 1. Everyone, down to the last of us, shall respect the voice of our people's rightful will. 1. All actions shall be respectful of order to demonstrate our honorable cause and rightful conduct.
독립선언서를 낭독해 주신 분들께 박수 부탁드립니다.
Please give them a big hand.
독립선언서에 담긴 자유와 평화를 향한
Let us
의지를
also
되새기며
revisit the
대한민국
dedication
국민으로서
for freedom and
전 세계
peace.
인류의
And as
평화와
the
행복을 위해
people of the
노력하겠다고
Republic of
다짐해
Korea,
봅니다.
let us once again renew our resolve. Once again, I would like to extend my gratitude to Ms. Jennifer Taylor and also Mr. Susumu Oishi, Duningu, Yulia Piskulova for sending us your video as well. During the miserable and furious times, music was indeed something that lighted up the dark. It served as the energy to transform fear to courage. Korean lyrics were added to the beautiful melody to remember our own language, and people renewed their resolves for independence by singing the song together. One of the songs that were sang back then was titled Danny Boy, known widely as an Irish folk song. Danny Boy is a song that entails the spirit of the people, just like Arirang here in Korea. Back then, when we did not have songs to sing, our ancestors added the lyrics to remember the numerous martyrs, fighters, and the heroes who were sacrificed during the Japanese colonial rule. 102 years have passed, and today, globally renowned cellist Hong Jin-ho will play the Arirang of Danny Boy, which is a combination of the songs Danny Boy and Arirang. Please enjoy.
네, 빗소리의 아름다운 첼로의
It was
선율이
indeed
어우러진
a beautiful
뭉클한
melody that
시간이었습니다.
filled the
멋진 곡
Tapo
연주해 주신
Park. Thank you very much for your wonderful
감사드립니다.
performance.
다음은
Next, marking the 102nd anniversary of the March 1st movement, the President will award government medals to the men of national merit of the independence who sacrificed themselves for the independence of the Republic of
이번
Korea.
3일절에는 총
And today, a total of
275
275 recipients will be awarded with Orders of Merit, with in-person medals given to 7 of them. When the names are called, we ask the members of the bereaved families to step up to the stage. First, the late Park Do-chul. Certificates of Order of Merit, the late Park Do-chul. The above person has contributed greatly to the independence and the national establishment of the Republic of Korea, and thus the following Order of Merit is awarded in accordance with the country's constitution. Order of Merit for National Foundation Patriotic Medal, March 1st, 2021, President. It is awarded to grandson Park Young-sup. Congratulations, please give them a big hand.
축하드립니다.
Congratulations. Next, the late Panyang Isi. Order of Merit for National Foundation Patriotic Medal, the late Panyang Isi. The contents are the same as above. It is awarded to Chairman Woo Won-sik of the association to commemorate General Hong Bum-do. The late Tanyang Lee was the spouse of General Hong Bum-do. Next, the late Hong Yang-sun. Order of Merit for National Foundation Patriotic Medal, the late Hong Yang-sun. The contents are the same as above. It is being awarded to Lieutenant Junior Grade Yeo Myung-hoon of the Hong Bum-do vessel of the Navy Submarine Force Command. The late Hong Yang-sun is the son of General Hong Bum-do. Congratulations. Please give them a big hand. And next, the late Im Ki-jung. Order of Merit for National Foundation National Medal, the late Im Ki-jung. The contents are the same as above. It is being awarded to daughter Im Ok-bong. Congratulations, please give them a big hand once again. Next, the late Kim Eun-ju. National Foundation Medal, the late Kim Eun-ju. The contents are the same as above. It is being awarded to daughter Shin Tae-yeon. Congratulations to you once again. Next, the late Kim Hyung-jun. Presidential citation, the late Kim Hyung-jun. The contents are the same as above. It is being awarded to granddaughter Kim Mi-kyung.
축하드립니다. 큰 박수.
Congratulations.
보내주시죠.
Please give them a big hand.
다음은 고
Next, the late
정갑생님입니다.
Jung Gap-seng.
대통령 표창.
Presidential
고
citation, the late
정갑생.
Jung Gap-seng.
이하 내용은
The contents are
같습니다.
the same as above.
아들
It is being awarded to
정종주님께
son
수여됩니다.
Jung Jong-ju.
축하드립니다.
Congratulations.
네. 이상으로
With this, we
정보
conclude
포상
the
수여를
government medal
마치도록
awarding
하겠습니다.
ceremony.
진심으로 축하드립니다.
Congratulations to you once again.
다음은
And next, the
대통령께서
president will deliver his
제120주년
commemorative address
삼일절
marking
기념사를
the
하시겠습니다.
102nd anniversary of the March 1st movement.
존경하는 국민 여러분,
Fellow Koreans and compatriots abroad,
3.1 독립운동이
it is indeed
시작된
very meaningful
역사의
that we
현장에서
hold the
가슴
commemorative
축복으로
events
3.1
for the March
독립운동
1st movement for the first time
열리게
at the site
되어
of
참으로
history
뜻깊고 감회가
where the
큽니다.
independence movement itself all
102년 전
began.
오늘
102 years ago today,
탑골
here at
공원에서
the Tapgol Park,
민족의
the recovery
회복과
and resurgence
도약이
of our
시작되었습니다.
people began.
천도교,
All
기독교,
religions,
불교가
Chindoism,
공도의 벽을
Christianity,
넘어
and
한 마음이
Buddhism
되었고
stood united, and students stood at the forefront of the great unity of the people.
1919년 3월
On March
1일
1st,
오후 2시
1919, at 2 p.m.,
청년이
one youth
팔각정에
stood at the
올라
Palgakjeong Pavilion
독립선언서를
and recited the
낭독했습니다.
Declaration of Independence.
낭독이 끝나자
Right after the end of the
만세
recital, the
소리가
shout-outs of
하늘을
hoorays
덮었습니다.
filled the air.
세계 최대의
This was
비폭력운동,
the moment of the beginning of the world's largest nonviolence movement, the March 1st Independence Movement. The freedom and the cry for independence that began at the Tapgol Park enabled ordinary citizens to be reborn as the citizens of a democratic republic, and the shout-out for justice, peace, and humanitarianism became a cry that united the people of the colony as one. The March 1st movement was one that was participated by all citizens to recover the lives of our people from the exploitation of the colonial rule. Taking this opportunity, we regained the driving engine to overcome the colonial rule and made our resurgence. I extend my deepest respect to all of our ancestors for their efforts in turning around the history of the Republic of Korea by overcoming the challenges. Fellow Koreans, a century has passed. But the potential and dedication of our people standing against national challenges remain unchanged. We never succumb to the prolonged threat of the COVID-19 that is persisting for over a year. For the past year, our people became responsible agents of quarantine to protect the country. Quarantine officials and medical practitioners showcase an astonishing level of dedication and sacrifice far beyond their own duty and responsibility. A year before the March 1st independence movement in 1918, when we are suffering from the exploitation of the Japanese colonial rule, we were faced with a novel infectious disease called the Spanish flu. Back then, more than 7.55 million people were infected, which is well over 40% of the population back then, and over 140,000 people lost their lives. The cholera virus also meant death, with the fatality rate reaching near 65%. Just in 1920 alone, some 13,500 people lost their lives. The Japanese Empire failed to protect our people from the infectious diseases. Taking antivirus measures and sanitation as excuses, our people frequently faced forced consensus and isolation. Back then in 1920, a single doctor had to look after some 17,000 people. Despite such challenging situation, our medical students took part in the March 1st movement more than anyone else. The students of the Gyeongsang Medical School and Severance Medical School initiated the manse protests at the Topwood Park. The nurses of Severance Hospital and the students of the Department of Nursing Science at Severance Medical School also took to the streets with bandages in their hands. The students of the Gyeongsang Medical School accounted for the majority of the people who have been arrested. It was our very own people who were awakened with the March 1st movement that safeguarded the lives of our loved ones, neighbors, and community. Upon the establishment of the Provisional Korean Government, the medical professionals established the Korean Red Cross in Shanghai to safeguard the people who were oppressed. In 1920, they formed the Nurturing School for Red Cross Nurses to train the nurses to treat the members of the Army for National Independence. During the cholera outbreak, the youths and students at all corners of the country established the Youth Antivirus Unit to carry out free vaccination and disinfection, which were very widely welcomed by the people. In Seoul, 13 district communities and a total of some 3,000 households established a united team to fight against the cholera outbreak. The residents of eight communities, including Hyoja-dong, teamed up to establish an infectious disease hospital. On September 4th, 1920, our very first private infectious disease isolation hospital, the Hyoja-dong Hospital, was set up. At a hospital set up by the people of Chosun, the doctors, nurses, and Oriental medicine doctors, all from Chosun, exerted all-out efforts to treat patients. Looking back from our situation as we face the COVID-19 pandemic, I feel the efforts of our ancestors who aimed to care for the patients of our people on their own. And as we fight against the COVID-19, we believe that this is indeed something that stemmed from our ancestors some century back. Fellow Koreans, now after a century, our medical system is at a global level. Those in the low-income brackets can receive treatment subject to medical insurance coverage by spending only 800,000 Korean won a year, and the coverage for severely ill patients also rose to 80%. Our medical system is also highly praised globally in treating cancer, including stomach cancer and stroke. And the major indices, including the expectancy rate and the child mortality rate, the survival rate of cancer, all stand at high levels among OECD member states. Likewise, our medical system and the production capacity in the biomedical field indeed became the foundation for our K-quarantine. A century has passed, but there's also something that remained unchanged. It is the minds of inclusiveness and harmony that is aimed at caring for others. We believe that these are the very energy that enable us to overcome any challenges. We have overcome numerous challenges with our own power, and we are also overcoming the COVID-19 pandemic. The March 1st independence movement began with the activists, but it's for the ordinary citizens who spread it in the form of manse movement across the nation. Now people are wearing face masks on a daily basis, and there are also many people taking part in the social distancing scheme, and we believe that this all stems from the spirit of the March 1st independence movement. And even at this moment, together with the public, there are also many medical professionals who are exerting their full efforts at the isolation hospitals, and we are seeing an end to our prolonged COVID-19 battle. We have been secured enough amount of the vaccines and special syringes, and we are carrying out inoculation as planned. The government will also exert our full efforts, and until the very day when every one of our citizens can be safe from the virus, we will exert all-out efforts for the inoculation, and by November, we will reach herd immunity. In safeguarding ourselves against the COVID-19, the number one principle was transparency. And the government has also disclosing all of our related information in a transparent manner. And this was also the same for vaccine inoculations. The strategies of vaccines procurement, inoculation plans, as well as the updates are being disclosed in a transparent manner, and we are also abiding by international standards. So we ask you to please be aware of fake news that is diminishing confidence in the vaccines, and also actively take part in the inoculation plan going forward. Fellow Koreans, compatriots abroad, at the very first March 1st commemoration event after liberation on 1946, Mr. Cho So-ang, the member of the cabinet of the interim government, declared and proclaimed that he will enable our people to become free, have political rights, and also achieve true liberation, which freeing themselves from the fear of shelter and food. As the ideology of national establishment, the Korean interim government also proclaimed that when we have our own power, we can achieve equitable development among individuals, people, and nations. This was a very grand dream that we had, and among this dream, we achieved a remarkable achievement. We rose to the world's top 10 economy from the world's poorest country. We became the world's 7th largest export power, and we also ushered in an era of $30,000 per in-person capita. And our major manufacturing industries, including those of smartphones, display, and semiconductors, have become the world's first class. And also our world-class 5G, as well as the new environment, new cars, and future cars, we are also on a global level as well. And our youth's high level of education is also among the highest among all other OECD countries. We are exerting our full effort to learn new intelligence and ideas, and this has become the driving force of the economic development.
With the force of mature democracy, we were able to set an exemplary quarantine and economic achievements amidst the COVID-19 crisis, thereby sharing the achievements with the world. We are expanding our support to emerging countries and countries with vulnerable public health systems. The Republic of Korea, that was stopped at the footsteps to Paris Peace Summit 100 years ago, has now become a dignified country to be invited to the G7 summit. This year, Korea will take part in the G7 summit, and on the basis of our political, economic, social, and cultural achievements, we will set a firm milestone of the advanced country, Republic of Korea. We have developed by cooperating with the international community, and we will continue to recover and take a leap forward with the world. 100 years ago, our ancestors declared right here that the goal of Declaration of Independence is not to detest or boycott Japan, but to right the relations between nations and make peace in Asia and in the world. It was a declaration of nonviolence peace movement. We inherit the spirit of mutual equity between countries and to pursue peace from our ancestors a century ago. Today, fighting against the pandemic, we're once again keenly aware of the significance of solidarity, cooperation, multilateralism, and inclusiveness. We got over the unfortunate era of colonialism and war under the world order controlled by power. We understood how important international solidarity and cooperation is in order to maintain the global supply chain. We learned that all countries around the world must cooperate for an early development of vaccine and group immunity on the global level, and also realize the vaccines should be distributed equally to the emerging countries. The world must now resuscitate the spirit of solidarity, cooperation, and multilateralism for existence and prosperity. We should seek a multilateralism-based resolution not only on the battle against COVID-19 crisis, but also on universal issues such as climate change. We now possess the capacity to lead the solidarity and cooperation efforts. Last December, we launched the Northeast Cooperative Body on Disease Prevention and Public Health together with the US, China, Russia, and Mongolia. Japan is now reviewing to join this body, and we look forward to the participation of North Korea. We will be the most active party to cooperate with the member countries. Novel infectious diseases such as COVID-19 and livestock diseases spreading across the borders can only be dealt effectively with multilateral cooperation. We also continue to work on denuclearization and lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. Based on the three principles of zero tolerance to war, mutual security guarantee, and co-prosperity, inter-Korean relations will develop upon this. Starting from North Korea's participation on the Northeast Asian Cooperative Body to protect the lives and safety of the people, I hope North Korea will cooperate and make exchanges with neighboring countries in the region. This will be the force to open up the waterway to coexistence and peace on the Korean Peninsula and the North Asian region. Fellow Koreans, Korea and Japan had a sad history in the past. Today, we commemorate the most dramatic moment of that history. We will not be able to forget that history. An offender may be able to forget, however, victims can never. However, 100 years later today, Korea and Japan became the very important neighbors in all aspects of economy, culture, and human exchange. For the last decades, the two countries developed our competitiveness based on a so-called division of labor structure. Korea's development supported that of Japan's, and vice versa. This will continue in the future. The only obstacle we should overcome is that at times our past history is mixed up with the future issues, which hinders our future growth. While looking squarely at the history, we should learn a lesson. Acknowledging the lesson learned from the wrongdoings of the past is not something to be ashamed of, but rather it is the way to be respected in the international community. We learned the lesson, the dishonorable history of colonization and fratricidal war. However, we should not be tied up to the past. Past issues shall be resolved. But at the same time, we should focus more energy into the future developments. The Korean government will seek for wise resolution, maintaining the standpoint of a victim-oriented stance. We will do our utmost to recover the dignity and honor of the victims. However, we will not cease the efforts toward mutual cooperation and future development of Korea and Japan. The mutual cooperation will support all of us, and it will be a help to the stability and co-prosperity of the Northeast Asian region and also the cooperation amongst Korea, US, and Japan. Moreover, we have to surmount the COVID crisis and prepare the post-COVID-19 era. There never have been countries more cooperation more important than this. The Declaration of Independence was proposed to forge a new and friendly relations with Japan by courageously righting the wrongdoings of Japan. And that spirit has not changed. The Korean government is ready to sit down with Japanese government for a dialogue at any time. Sitting face to face and thinking from the other's shoes, I believe we will be able to resolve the historic issues. Korea and Japan are looking at the past and present at the same time, and we're walking the path together. The Tokyo Olympics that will be held this year will be able to serve as an opportunity for talks between Korea, Japan, North and South Korea, and North Korea and Japan. We will cooperate for the successful hosting of the Tokyo Olympics. Moreover, I hope Korea and Japan can recover the economies hit by COVID-19 and make the new order of the post-COVID-19 era based on a more solid cooperation. Fellow Koreans, descendants of independence activists and bereaved families, the independence activists surviving today are only 24, and they are all over 90 years old. The activists are those who embraced the destiny of our people wholeheartedly, and it is the country's infinite responsibility to ensure their honorable and comfortable life. Last year, the Korean government ran a special welfare service at home for these persons of merit of independence. Total of 44,000 households of the men of merit and their bereaved families were delivered with COVID emergency relief packages. Those with difficulties in mobility were accompanied to hospitals. For those overseas, we supported them with preventive goods such as masks, face masks. From this month, the government will start Oriental Medicine Service, visiting them at homes. From December, the men of merit will be given autonomous driving smart wheel chairs. And artificial retinas and smart hearing aids will start its development process in earnest. The government has improved the criteria for the persons of merit for independence, thereby discovering and awarding the largest number so far. We will expand the award by improving and strengthening the processes of discovering historical materials. Students who were the protagonists of the March 1st movement upheld the spirit with June 10th Manse movement in 1926 and Gwangju Student Independence movement in 1929. The government last year designated June 10th Manse Movement Day as a National Memorial Day, and the commemoration will be hosted by the government from this year onwards. It is very meaningful that all three, including March 1st Movement and Gwangju Student Independence Movement, has become a National Memorial Day. In November 23rd, the interim government key figures will return home to the National Memorial Hall. There were military battles, heroic activities, desperate diplomatic activities, and Liberation Army's operations that contributed to the victory of the Republic of Korea's interim government, and the Great March of those 27 years will be revived. I believe that the history of independence movement will be a great pride and dignity to our descendants. Fellow Koreans, Ever since the March 1st movement, for the 100 years, we have overcome the colonial rule, division, war, poverty, and dictatorship. The universal value of freedom, peace, justice, and humanitarianism were sought after. At the moment, the March 1st spirit and democracy are the basis of our march towards a new era and our new pace, and the world is paying attention to our footsteps. We will restore the precious everyday life with solidarity and cooperation. We will lead the international order with a spirit of humanitarianism, multilateralism, and coexistence and inclusiveness. Here at Tapgol Park, our ancestors' spirit live on that accomplished the reversed history amidst the crisis and hardships, and we will march forward remembering our ancestors. We are stronger when we are together, and we will lead to a higher level. Thank you.
네, 대통령님 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Mr.
국난에 맞서는
President.
우리 국민들의 헌신과 의료인들의
He
힘,
has
그
also
어떤 위기에도
highlighted the
가족과
dedication
이웃,
of our
공동체
people
생명을 지키는
and
우리
the
국민의
medical
저력이
practitioners,
자랑스럽습니다.
and I am very
새로운
much
시대를
proud
향한
of our
선도국가,
potential and energy.
대한민국호의 출발을
And now
응원합니다.
he also has highlighted a new beginning of the Republic of Korea.
대한민국 국민 모두가 잊지 않고
We shall never
기억해야 해요.
remember,
절대 잊으면 안 돼요.
shall always
기억해야 돼요.
remember, and this has to be remembered at all times.
전중이 일곱이 진액색 일복 입고
7
무릎
prisoners
꿇고 앉아
were wearing the
하느님께
mud-colored
기도할 때
prison uniform, and when
접시
they
두 개 콩밥덩이
pray to
창문
God,
열고 던져줄 때
when the prison food
피눈물로
is
기도했네.
thrown into the cell,
피눈물로
we
기도했네.
prayed desperately. Taehan once lived. There lived Taehan. Mountains and streams are moved. Ocean water boiled.
그동안 당연히 누렸던 것들에 대해
I thought about
진심으로
what
감사드리는
I
마음을 가지게
have taken for
되었습니다.
granted, and I am truly thankful for that.
뜨거운 목소리 잊지
The
않겠습니다.
voices for singing for the future, I will never forget.
서대문 형무소 역사 8호실 차가운 바닥 위 내 아들의 아들에게 내 딸의 딸들에게 나 힘든 곳 피로가 어둡고 못친 매질 이뼈를 조각내도 날 불쌍히 여기지 말라 날 위해 울지도 말라 내 강아지 목소리가 창살을 넘어갈 때 희망은 가둬질 수 없으니 서대문 형무소 역사 8호실 차가운 바닥 위 대안이 살았다 거기 대안이 살았다
전중 일곱이 진흙색 일복 입고 두 무릎 꿇고 앉아 하느님께 기도할 때 접시 두 개 콩밥덩이 창문 열고 던져줄 때 피눈물로 기도했네 피눈물로 기도했네 대안이 살았다 대안이 살았다 삼천이 동하고 바다가 끓는다 대안이 살았다 대안이
높고 당당히 불러지기를 목마름으로 반인 충만함으로 간절한 영혼지 감사함으로 그리고 그 좋은 날 내 새끼 꿈을 시켜 내 손 거를 걷고 싶소 그날은 나는 꼭 보고 싶소 난 지금 있는 곳 비록 어둡고 자유롭지 못해도 서대문 형무소 역사 8호실 거기에
대안이 살았다 대안이 살았다 대안이 살았다 대안이 살았다 삼천이 동하고 바다가 끓는다 대안이 살았다 대안이
선열들의 독립을 향한 간절함이
It was a heart-moving performance, leaving resonating martyrs' ardent longings for independence. Please give our performers another big
다시
hand.
한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
3.1운동의 정신은 우리 후손들에게
The spirit of the
위기의
March First
순간마다
movement served as
다시
the
일어날
will
수
and
있는
driving force
의지와
of our
원동력이
descendants
되어주었습니다.
to stand back on their
다시
feet
한번
once
이 나라
again
정신을
every
기리며
moment of
3.1절
crisis.
노래를
Remembering
부르겠습니다.
such spirit
모두
once again, let us
자리에서
sing
일어나
together the song of
함께
March First
불러주시기
movement.
바랍니다.
Please rise from your seats.
매년 오늘이면 온 국민의 마음을 하나로 모아주었던 3.1절 노래, 3.1 만세운동의 자주독립 정신을 기억하고
Every
선열의
year
거룩한
today,
희생정신을 기리는
this
의미가
song
담겨 마음이 더욱
was sung
건강해집니다.
for us to
이어서
remember
만세 삼창이
the noble
있겠습니다.
sacrifices.
만세
Let us now
삼창은
give the three
1919년
cheers.
이곳
This will be led by the juniors of the Martyrs in Medical School who have gave their 3 cheers here at Tapgol Park in 1919. Kim Ji-won of the Department of Nursing Science at Yonsei University, Hyun Min-ung of Department of Oriental Medicine at Wonkwang University, Baek Jae-hyuk of Yonsei University College of Medicine, Yoo Ju-hyun of College of Pharmacy at Seoul National University, Lee Junyoung of Chungbuk National University College of Medicine, and Cadet Kim Eun-bi, 62nd class of the Korea Armed Forces Nursing Academy. We will never forget the cry for the world that was initiated here at Tapgol Park on March 1st, 1919. We extend my respect to all the people who wished to let our independence be known to the rest of the world at home and abroad, shouting hooray and manse. We shall shout out together, remembering their spirit. Long live the independence of Korea. Our seniors who wished to become ordinary doctors 102 years ago willingly served as independence martyrs to reclaim the stolen sovereignty. Remembering the spirit of sacrifice and dedication, we will also become respectable medical practitioners who safeguard the lives of our people. Let us shout hooray for the numerous medical staff who are exerting their full efforts at the forefront to combat COVID-19 even as we speak. Last year was a challenging year for all of us, but as we've always been, we are overcoming the challenge and is making a resurgence as a strong country that is on a par with many other international powers. We will reclaim our normalcy. Let's cheer up. Let us shout hooray with a united wish to cheer us all up. Long live the independence of Korea. This concludes the commemorative event celebrating the 102nd anniversary of the March 1st movement. The country that shines amid the crisis, the Republic of Korea. We will lead the new era. Thank you very much for watching.
And that'll conclude Arirang's coverage this morning of the ceremony honoring the Korean independence fighters who took part in the March 1st independence movement. Over 100 years ago now, their sacrifices made possible the independent Korea that exists today. Thank you for watching. Arirang News is coming up at noon. Bye for now.